Hello, I'm making this video today regarding catching Lyme disease in the UK, in Staffordshire, because so far it's been a tremendous struggle dealing with the illness, and on top of that, just to be told that I don't have Lyme disease. This is how I went about getting a diagnosis. It all started off about 3 years ago when I moved into my house. The house had been quite neglected and the garden was very overgrown. One evening, as usual, I'd washed my bedding, hung it on the line. My bedding had blowed into the trees, drying, and then I scooped it up and made my bed with it. The next morning, I woke up, my leg was very sore, my calf. I'd got a rash on my calf, it was about that big. It's a bullseye dot with a ring around it. I thought, oh, what's happened here? Got out of bed and there was a dead insect on my bedroom floor. When I examined the insect, thinking it might be a bed bug, it was like nothing I'd seen before. I had a look on Google Images to see what this insect was, and it wasn't a bed bug. It turned out to be a tick. If I'd have known now what I wished I'd have known then, what I know now, in regards to I should have took a photograph of it and of the bullseye rash, because at that time I'd never even heard of Lyme disease. I just assumed that the fact that I'd got a rash on the back of my leg was a good sign that some insect had bit me, and it was my body's way of defending it, because obviously I didn't know the dangers then of Lyme disease. Unfortunately, I didn't read any more about the rash. Had I done, it might have saved me from getting Lyme disease. Anyway, shortly after that, I started to get symptoms, that being like flu-like symptoms, sinuses, runny nose, earache, aches and pains, my neck, my shoulders really tight and hurting, like what I should imagine would be like whiplash or arthritis sort of pains. I spent about a year to-ing and fro-ing, going back to the doctors with all these different things going on. Never even thought it would have been anything to do with the rash, never thought to mention it. And also I started to get complications about this time with TMJ, which is to do with clenching your teeth and grinding your teeth. I've got it so severely that when I was in bed at night, it felt like somebody had got a boot under my chin and was pushing, and I was clenching so hard my teeth with no control over it. That was the main thing that seemed to happen to me. I was referred to the dentist and I was given mouth guard which protected my teeth, but obviously I was tending to bite on that more, which wasn't really helping matters. So about a year went by and I happened to be scrolling through my Facebook newsfeed and I saw somebody had posted a picture of the typical bullseye rash that you get when you've been bit by a tick. I looked at the picture of this rash and I thought, oh, that looks really familiar. Clicked on it and read, watch if you get bit by a tick and you have this rash, this could be Lyme disease. And I thought, oh my God, I thought I got bit by a tick. It was a tick, I saw it, and obviously I've had this rash and all these symptoms match up to Lyme disease. So I went straight up to the doctors, told them of my fears. My doctors weren't really too convinced, but she said, well, we'll send you for a blood test anyway. Anyway, a few days later I had a call back from the doctor saying, can you come in? When I went in to see the doctor, he said, look, we've done a blood test. It's not specific for Lyme, but it's the nearest blood test that we've got, and it's picked up that your body's producing antibodies, which is a sign that your body's obviously fighting something. So just to be on the safe side, we're going to give you some antibiotics So he gave me a course of doxycycline for 28 days, and he says, and we'll refer you to a rheumatoid specialist as well, just to be on the safe side. But if there was any Lyme, you should be all right with the antibiotics. So that was that. I can't really remember if I felt any better after taking the antibiotics. I think by that time I'd started to get headaches that were connected to my jaw clenching, whereby the pain from my jaw was spreading up into my temples and my muscles were sort of spasming and locking. Be like, oh, just tension in my face. That's how bad the headaches were getting, and that did sort of stop after I had the antibiotics. Anyway, a few months later, I went to see a rheumatoid specialist, and she said to me, it's highly unlikely that you've got Lyme disease. She says, it sounds very typical of me, to me, that you've got fibromyalgia. She says, based on all your symptoms and the fact that I'd had a lot of trauma in my life with domestic violence, which I have done another video on. She says all that upset and trauma is one of the factors that do start fibromyalgia. She says, and have you been to Scotland at all? And I says, no, I haven't been to Scotland. And she says, well, it's highly likely that you've got Lyme disease unless you've been to Scotland. Well, I had to believe her because she was a specialist. So I went away thinking, okay, then she must know. But she did do one more blood test as well before I went, just to check things, and said I could go back in 6 months' time. In the meantime, I'm still suffering with all these symptoms, aches and pains, fatigue, just my jaw being the worst symptom. I just felt like I'd aged 10 years in the space of a year. I used to run 3 times a week, and I just felt out of breath and exhausted, and I just knew I wasn't myself. Anyway, I went back to the rheumatoid specialist about 6 months later, and she said to me, how's things? And by then I started to sort of take care of myself a little bit more in regards to healthy eating and that sort of thing. And she said, oh, you're looking a lot better. She says, we did your blood tests, and they came back positive again, that we're picking up antibodies, but to be honest, it's highly likely 2 false positives. So what chance do you have when somebody's saying to you they've done 2 blood tests and they were both false positives? Well, what on earth is the point in having a blood test if that's what they're going to say to you? So, but how can you argue with a doctor who's saying you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and you can't get Lyme unless you've been to Scotland, which is what she says by asking me, have you been to Scotland? And I'm not the expert, so I had to believe them. Anyway, a few months went by and I'm still not feeling any better. I feel completely drained. All my symptoms still, especially my jaw, that's driving me absolutely mad still to this day. And I just didn't believe them. I thought, you know what? I got bit by the tick. I had the rash. I saw the tick. The typical tick picture is the tick that bit me. And I've been bad since. And they're telling me I've got fibromyalgia now. And I've got all the symptoms of Lyme. So what is so difficult that I can't have Lyme disease? Not that I want it. I'm not a hypochondriac, or I don't want to be ill. I've always been a really healthy person. It's just so frustrating. So I went up the doctors again, and I said to the doctor, I said, look, I'm not happy with this diagnosis of fibromyalgia. I still believe I've got Lyme disease. And she said, look, you had antibiotics. And I said, well, yeah, but that was a year and a bit later. You're supposed to take the antibiotics surely in the first stages of Lyme. So I'm not convinced that the antibiotics have worked. And she went, well, you haven't got Lyme disease. and her attitude absolutely stunk. She made me feel like I was making a big fuss over nothing and wasting her time. And I thought, you know what, I'm getting nowhere with this. I mean, no disrespect to the NHS, they do an absolutely fantastic job. And I know they're overburdened financially and with volumes of people they have to deal with, they don't have enough staff and they've probably got targets to adhere to and all that. I totally understand that. But when it comes to Lyme disease, I've been on the Lyme disease forums, which I suggest you join on Facebook, Lyme UK discussion group. That's been absolutely brilliant support to me, and that's the one that pointed me in the right direction to get help in the end. So yeah, I'm not slagging off the NHS, but with regards to Lyme, if you find out about all these people who've got Lyme disease, you will also discover that to get diagnosed with it in the UK is an absolute bugbear, excuse the pun. Anyway, that was that. So I went on the Lyme UK discussion group on Facebook, and there was a lot of talk about a laboratory in Germany called Armin Labs. They do more specific, their blood tests are a lot more specific for picking up Lyme disease than the ones that they do in the UK. So I filled in a form and I did answered all the questions, which also indicated that I could have co-infections as well, because if you have Lyme disease, it more than likely will come with other co-infections. So I had to get tested for that as well. So all in all, those tests cost me about £500. Now I'm a single parent and I work. I don't earn a brilliant wage, and I find it really appalling that now, even though I've been bit by this tick, got all this evidence that this is a length I'm having to go to now to prove that I've got Lyme disease. And I thought, well, at least if I have the tests in Germany, I'll know one way or the other if I've got Lyme. And if the NHS are right and they come back that I haven't, then it must be fibromyalgia, and at least I can get on with dealing that. But I need to know what I'm dealing with, because if it is Lyme disease, obviously it can only get worse and I could end up in a wheelchair or even dead. And I'm a single mom, mortgage to pay, all that. Like anybody else, I value my life. So I had to get fed a phlebotomist to come to my house to draw my blood. I had to get FedEx to come and pick the blood up. It was really stressful. I had to book a day off work to sort all this out, and they took my blood. I think it was within a week. I had the results back, and the results came back, and it was conclusive that I had active Lyme disease and a few other co-infections as well. And to say I was absolutely devastated is an understatement. I felt so let down. I'd had to go through all these lengths and to find out I've got Lyme disease, and had to diagnose it really myself at my own expense when I pay my taxes. It's a pretty poor show. And then on top of that, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? Because even if I take my test results to my doctor, they're not going to take it on board because I had the tests done in Germany. I'm not even sure if Armin Labs are accredited. I believe they are now. But the point being, I know that they will use everything to fob you off, and I thought that they will fob these results off. So anyway, I made another appointment to see my GP. I was really reluctant to go, you know, when you just feel like a pest. Oh, I'm making a nuisance of myself here. But anyway, I went back there and I insisted on being referred to seeing an infectious diseases doctor, which they did. There was notes I noticed on the computer system saying about I'd had Armin Labs tests and that they were not credible, basically. undermining the Army lab's results. Another way of foo-fooing them off, really. Now, I don't believe spending £500 on tests is something to be taken lightly. Anyway, so also at this time, because I was absolutely frightened to death, I had to book 2 weeks off work, unpaid leave, because I needed to research about Lyme disease and find out someone who was going to help me in the UK. And I couldn't do it because I was working 8 hours a day on a computer, a very busy, stressful job. And I just physically was wiped out of an evening when I got back from work. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have 2 weeks off unpaid and research it and find out where to go next. Fortunately, I found a nutritionist who was being absolutely brilliant. I had to pay £120 for a Skype session with her, or thereabouts. Don't quote me on that, but it was thereabouts. And she asked me all my symptoms, and she devised a protocol for me, but based on the Burner's protocol, Japanese knotweed and other herbs and supplements. I also started that protocol, and I went on changed my diet to a more basic diet of anything that's really natural, fruit, veg, cut out sugar and replaced it with stevia, which is a natural plant extract. That's really sweet. Took some getting used to in my tea, but it is nice. I lost about a stone in weight, which was a bit of a bonus, and started to feel a lot better. Then my appointment came round to see the infectious diseases specialist at Heartlands Hospital in Birmingham. I took my cousin with me for some support, and they were, I think, trying to fob me off a little bit, bringing up the old fibromyalgia label. He said, these Army labs, we don't really take these on board. He said, your CD57 results are, I think they were at a 50 at the time when I'd had them done at Army labs. He said, for somebody with Lyme, yours would need to be a 0. You wouldn't be able to get out of bed, and yours are a 50, which is quite good. Now, I know since going to see that doctor that they don't even do CD57 tests, so that was just another way, I think, of fobbing me off. It concluded at the end of my consultation that I had got post-Lyme disease. So the question is, I've been being told that over the past 2 years that I've got fibromyalgia and I couldn't get Lyme disease in the UK. Now I'm being told I've got post-Lyme disease. So they're moving the goalposts yet again, saying I haven't got it because I've had antibiotics, and what is left is the aftermath of the Lyme disease, is why my body's in so much pain. When we all know that you've got to take the antibiotics in the early stages, not 14 months later as I had done. Well, this is what I believe from the research I've done myself. I'm no expert, as I say. So, really, I was just glad that behind the scenes, although I was sat in front of the infectious diseases specialist, I'd gone and got my own help. I'd gone and got my own nutritionist and got myself on herbs and supplements and changed my diet and started to be proactive and look at myself, look after myself. Excuse the tripping up of the tongue. I do tend to get a bit of brain fog, which is another symptom of Lyme. And the only other thing I'd like to say about Lyme is, you know, it's quite sad that people don't realise that you're actually poorly. of course, there are people who have got really bad Lyme disease in the late stages, and they're in horrendous states, and it's horrendous what they're going through. I've got it, but my symptoms aren't so bad as I can't get out of bed, but I think that's because I've caught it quite early, but not early enough really. I'm now having spasms in my sleep, and having to try and get help from a dentist. So although I do look okay on the outside, inside I'm in a lot of pain, and I really miss feeling my old self where my body was really healthy and fit, and I know I'll never feel like that again. I just say to people, trust your instincts. If you think there's something, don't let them put you off, and don't rely on the NHS to help you. You know, look for your own help. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not rolling in it, and it has cost me so far, I'd say, a couple of £1,000 in herbs and supplements, but what do? Leave it and end up getting worse. I've also started seeing a chiropractor, which has been a massive help. Oh, that's really nice, having muscles manipulated in my back and neck. And I'm hoping to see a specialist dentist as well for my teeth, because my NHS dentist has just given me a mouth guard and left me to it, and Birmingham Dental Hospital have been absolutely useless as well. So, as I say, I'm not slagging off the NHS, but in regards to this Lyme disease, it hasn't helped me whatsoever. So anyway, I just wanted to make people aware of it, and if you do get bit by a tick, obviously, you know, get up the doctors and get some antibiotics. Thanks for listening to my story today. I just wanted to tell you as well that I do have to take a great big box of herbs and supplements every morning, afternoon and evening. So yeah, that's it. I never thought I'd get Lyme disease, and then especially never thought I'd get it just by going to bed. I hadn't even been out walking in the woods. So thanks for listening, and please share my video to spread awareness of Lyme disease. I'm from Staffordshire in the UK. Oh, and you can catch me on Twitter at StephanieMKM123. I've also got a website, it's StephanieMKM-dvfree.com, where I've done a few articles about domestic violence and Lyme disease and other issues as well. Thanks for listening to me, and take care now. Bye.